Welcome to Hands-On Tarot, where I show you the many ways you can use tarot for more than just divination and help you grow your tarot practice. I'm Susie Gorley, and I've been using tarot for many years to create my future rather than just predict it. Today we're going to be exploring archetypes within the major arcana. So to give a definition about archetypes, I am taking it from this book here, The Key to Tarot by Sarah Bartlett. She writes, "The major arcana represents universal archetypes, qualities or experiences that are common to us all, such as happiness, sadness, truth, belief, desire, jealousy, anger, love, and hate. An archetype is a quality, essence, blueprint, or an original model of behavior, personality, feeling, experience, or idea. Throughout history, certain words, symbols, or codes have been used to describe these archetypes, and it is through symbols that we recall the ancient archetypes that are common to humankind. According to the psychoanalyst Carl Jung, we all resonate with these symbols because they are carried in both our personal and collective unconscious. The minor arcana generally represents the way these qualities or archetypes manifest in daily life. So the deck that I'm using today is the True Heart Intuitive Tarot by Rachel True. So I will be going through each of the cards of the major arcana and showing you the different archetypes within each card. So starting with the Fool here, card number 0, we see the archetypes of the Seeker, the Innocent, the Risk Taker, even the Fool we can look at. You know, sometimes when we do things without thinking, people will say, oh, you're just being a fool. We see the Innocence here as well, you know, taking a step off this cliff without really thinking about what's on the other side or if there's even, you know, land for them to step down on. For the Magician, the archetypes are the Knower, the Alchemist, because the Magician can take something out of nothing and create it, kind of like, you know, turning lead into gold. They're taking from the cosmos and bringing it into the material realm. We also see the Trickster within the Magician. It's kind of related to Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and giving it to mankind. So that's what the Trickster in there. And also with the Magician, there's the Wizard, or, you know, the Mage. Card number 2 for the High Priestess, we see the Mystic, we see the Subconscious, Mystery, Secret, the Divine Feminine, and Intuition. She is holding a book with all the secrets of the world. She has this veil behind her, which we're not sure what's behind that veil. The moon also is a mystery symbol as well. With the Empress, she is often associated with the archetype of the mother. As a result of that, I sometimes don't relate to that archetype because I am not a mother. So I am kind of glad in this deck she's not shown as a pregnant woman, but that's just me. She's also the archetype of the creator. Could look at it as being Gaia as well. Very feminine, the benefactor, or also within the Druidcraft Tarot, she is named the Lady. The Emperor, on the other hand, is that father archetype. He is also the archetype of the authority, being kind of the opposite of the Empress. There's that masculine quality to it. The ruler, and again with the Druid craft, he would be known as the Lord. Card number 5, the Hierophant. So within this card, we see the archetype of the mentor, someone who has something to teach others and others who want to listen. So with that as well, we have the archetype of the teacher and the archetype of tradition as well. Within the Lover's card, obviously we have the archetype of love. We have attraction and opposition, and also I look at this card as unity, so not only between two people, but also within the self. Whether that be combining the duality of your shadow and your light side, or your masculine and feminine side. With the Chariot, we see the archetype of the conqueror, the archetype of control as well. Card number 8 with Strength, we see the archetype of the hero or the heroine. We see compassion, tenderness, advantage, and courage. With card number 9, the Hermit. The Hermit is the archetype of the guide, also the recluse as well. So when we think of hermits up on mountains, you know, they're usually living by themselves, but oftentimes people will go up there to gain knowledge or find secrets or whatnot. But that light is also the guide as well. Card number 10 with the Wheel of Fortune, we have the archetypes of chance, change, fate, and destiny. You know, what goes up must come down. Just because you're on the top at one point doesn't mean you're going to stay there. It's also kind of a humbling card that way as well. The wheel's constantly turning. Card number 11 for Justice. This is the card of the arbitrator, the judge, or the enforcer. So we see those archetypes even within the sword as well, knowing that that sword is double-edged and can use it, you know, to hurt or to protect. The Hanged Man, we see the archetype of the martyr, someone who is made possibly not a very great choice and is kind of suffering as a result, so they are hung in an uncomfortable position to think about, you know, what they have done and how they're going to get out of it. It's also kind of the card of perspective as well. With Death, we see the archetypes of the Grim Reaper, also transition, rebirth, and within the Druidcraft Tarot, this is the card called for Cernunnos, the Horned God. Within Temperance, we have the archetypes of patience, balance, and moderation. We do have that symbol of alchemy on the chest of this angel as well. Card number 15 is the Devil. We see the archetypes of the hedonist, so someone who's always doing something because they want to or because it feels good, and not taking anybody else's opinions or feelings into matter. The Devil could also be looked at as the nemesis as well. Within the tower, we have the archetypes of destruction and breakdown. If you were to turn this around and look at it in a positive way, I look at it as an archetype of breakthrough. But quite often it is a negative card. The star is looked at as the archetype of the healer. There is also hope, wishes, dreams, all within this card as well. The moon is showing the archetypes of the soul or the unconscious or hidden emotions coming to the surface. When we think of full moons, we think of people, going crazy, or they're lunatics, or even werewolves coming out. So sometimes it's that wild side coming out, something that is untamed. Within the sun, we see the archetype of the inner child, not necessarily represented within this specific card, but often we see a baby riding a horse and is kind of carefree. But with the inner child as well, it's at that time where we felt happiness, we felt joy, we have that sense of nostalgia, just that pure radiance of optimism. The archetype for judgment, I often think of this as the card of second chances. It is also the archetype of forgiveness. And finally, within the world, we have the archetype of opportunity, success, and fulfillment. And as we know, once we reach the end of something, we will then go back and start a new journey, going through all these archetypes once again in a different form. Another way you can look at archetypes is using them to your benefit. So for example, with this modern goddess oracle made by Ethany Dawn, she has 16 different archetypes that you can use in different ways for empowering yourself. So I'm going to show you those. And I'm also going to show you within the guidebook here, there's different ways you can use these archetypes. So for example, she gives you an affirmation, talks about the different archetypes. So this one's for the crone, a divination meeting, shadow meaning, working with the crone archetype, and healing with the crone archetype as well. So if you're looking to work with different archetypes, this is a really great deck for that. So I'm just going to go through these 16 here. So we have the Mystic, the High Priestess, here's that crone, and I know we have the Maiden, Mother, and Crone. So we have those three archetypes in here. The Shadow Master, the Actress, the Guide, the Rebel, the Warrior. Those last two cards, I kind of feel some of the strength characteristics within these two. We have the Fairy, the Badass, the Queen, the archetype of the Artist, the Healer, And finally, the witch, which also is a very powerful archetype within itself. So I'm just going to I'll read through the witch since we're on that one now, and just give you some examples of working with the witch archetype. So a keyword for the witch would be power. Symbols would be books, candles, crystals, altars, moons, and stars. An affirmation you can use when working with this archetype is, I remember who I am. This modern witch is living her life powerfully. She has learned to stay in tune with nature by actively honoring the sun's seasons, cycles of the moon, and her own rhythms and evolution. She works with the elements within and around her to co-create her life and positively impact the world. Her sacred tools are an extension of her powerful innate magic. The witch listens to her intuition and the signs from the universe to allow for moments of pure joy and enchantment. She proudly embodies her archetype, bringing the word witch into a modern and empowering title. And because I know Ethany on a personal level, as I'm part of her coven, this witch card is represented by Mint Fairy. If you know her, this is who is represented in this card, actually. So a divination meaning for the witch. So the witch has come into your reading today as a reminder of who you are and the incredible power you were born with. You don't have to identify as a witch to bring her magic into your life. You are asked to get into the driver's seat of your life and start steering. A change may be simply how you speak, using your words to create a more positive experience. If you do identify as a witch, it may be a call to crack out your book of shadows and do something magical about your current situation. Either way, the witch archetype is not passive. They see what needs to be done and do it. Witches are often here to be of service to spirit, humanity, and nature. Have you been ignoring the call to be of service to yourself and others? If so, it's time to pursue it. So if you want to work with the witch archetype, you can start learning how to live in tune with the phases of the moon, the eclipses, and other important dates like solstices. You can celebrate the next full moon, even if it's solo and small scale, and bring your power back into yourself by using your language intentionally and using authenticity. Remember, words have power. If you want to heal with the witch archetype, reevaluate your comments and offload the ones that commitments. Reevaluate your commitments and offload the ones that aren't serving you. You have the right to change your mind. So again, taking back your power. Meditate and examine any negative emotions to find their root cause. And finally, protect yourself and other witches in your community by honoring their journey and not judging whether someone is in or out of the broom closet. So I really like this deck, not only for the goddesses that are in it, but for these specific archetypes as well. So if this is something you're interested in, I will put that information down below. One thing I was also thinking of doing, which I will post on my website, is doing kind of a mini series on the different Fool's journeys through the major arcana. So quite often the Fool's journey is the only one we hear about within the major arcana, but it is really amazing how many other stories work within the major arcana cards and their meanings. So if you're interested in that, you can check out my website at www.susiegorley.com. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me at handsontarot@gmail.com or visit my website at susiegorley.com. or find me on Instagram at handsontarot. Thanks for listening. I'm Susie Gorley, and I see tarot in your future.